side and kept on walking towards the crap table.
Break this motherfucker, man. Shit.
If I had anything to do with it, I was going to make sure her old man didn't have any money when I pulled up. I knew him by sight, plus that his name was Ray, but that was all I knew about him. The crap game was ruined when I got there. I stood on the sidelines and watched the dice go around. It was mostly factory workers playing, with a sprinkling of hustlers. As I watched, I realized that very few of the so-called hustlers really knew how to get down. The game was right. Each shooter could pick up the dice and shoot them like he wanted to. If the fader didn't catch the dice, point seen, money lost. The dice finally came to Ray. He got covered for $20. I groaned when he shot the dice out. He was using the turn down, the same shot I was going to shoot, and he knew what he was doing. My plans for busting him began to dim as I watched the diamond on his little finger glitter. My diamond-studded watch needed some company, so I promised to buy myself a ring in the morning if I won. The house had a limit on passes. After you hit 5 licks, you had to pass the dice. Ray jumped 4 for his 4th shot. He tried to get faded for $120, but wouldn't anybody fade him. Since this was his last shot, I decided to try and set him up. I knew he was crap-wise and also wouldn't catch a point if I covered such a serious bet. So I wouldn't have time to slip in the bust-outs. I stepped over beside him. I got you faded for the 20, baby. I want some of that whore money you be getting, I said, talking hip out the side of my neck. He grinned at me. Going for your 20, baby boy, he said, and just as quickly tossed a 7 in the door. Man, I exclaimed, I'm glad I didn't fade the whole thing. The stick man, keeping the game moving, yelled, next shooter. I tossed $100 to him. Shoot it, I yelled. I almost blowed and fading, so I might as well bet it. I shot the dice out my hand all the way down the table. A square would shoot like that. The dice stopped on 7, too. The stick man yelled, wait a minute, Red, you ain't even faded. Putting on my good square grin, I smiled. That's all right, house man. I got plenty more of them 7s. Get me on. That kid jive stung, but I waited till his money was in the houseman's hand with mine. I picked the dice up and shot them away from Ray, so he couldn't catch them. The dice spun like tops, neither one turning off the 5 deuce. I set them on. Ray almost broke my ribs trying to push me aside so he could catch the spinning dice. I had braced myself, though, and he couldn't have moved me out the way with the Mack truck. 7, yelled the gamekeeper. Shooting, 200. Ray stared at me angrily. His eyes were slits. Suddenly he grinned. Boy, when you got me, you got a good one, he said quietly. Then yelled, bet the shooter hits. I couldn't get covered for but $50 the next shot, then 20. The last 2 fades were for $10. I caught 4 on my last shot, and between the bets, I could beat Ray too. I picked up $40 more on side bets. I jumped forward and passed the dice. I waited until the dice had gone halfway around the table before I made another killing. A large, pot-gutted, light-skinned factory worker wearing bib-covered overalls was shooting. He had started with a $20 bet, hit, then shot the 40, hit, and now was trying to get on for the 80. I covered the whole bet, then prayed that he didn't come out the door with 7 or 11. When he caught 6, I bet 50 more around the board. that he would miss. Ray was betting the odds, percentage, and hunch. So we spread about 50 around the board that the shooter would miss. When the shooter turned the dice loose, I caught them and asked to give me a shake. The dice I tossed back in his hand were bust outs. When he sevened out, I grabbed the dice and switched the proper ones back in the game. You sure know when to get down, kid. I mean get down, Ray said and slapped me on the back. I didn't know if he had seen me switch, but for the rest of the game we both bet the same way. I was holding over $200 in my hand when Lil Bit came barging up to the table. She grinned. Daddy, give me some money so I can eat. Looking up from the table, I growled, eat when you break lunch, bitch. She whirled